What's up, Jim?
Doing well. How you doing, Jared?
Doing good, man. Doing good. It's Friday, which I like.
Friday.
So,
It's a special day here on the
it is.
GDB, is it not? Yes.
Yep.
This is our first behind the screen uh, patrons only episode here on the Great Dangerous Books podcast. So
Really
it's a big
excited
day.
about it.
It's a
Yep.
big day. Yeah.
Yep.
And really, listeners, this is our expression of gratitude for people who have gone the extra mile to materially support the work we're doing on the podcast. And we really appreciate it.
We really do. We really do.
Yeah.
Because we want to see the thing grow, and it takes funds to do so. So
It does. Yeah.
But
Yes.
I wanted to give a special shout out by name for all the people that are behind the paywall. So we got Alex Surveys, I'm guessing is how you say his last name. Cheers to you, buddy.
Nice. Thank you, Alex.
Vincent Petruccelli.
Thank you, Vince.
Thank you, Vince. David Nall.
Appreciate
Benjamin
it,
Walter. Well, she's been really good on commenting on our YouTube channel
yes.
as well.
Yes, we appreciate that.
And Janelle Gurin. I hope I spelled or how I pronounced her name right. So
Janelle. Oh, I think I know Janelle outside the simulation also. So
nice.
good to have Janelle.
Yeah,
Excellent.
thank you guys.
Excellent. Yeah, cool.
So,
and it's funny I mentioned that the simulation because we're going to be talking about something akin to that today. So we really appreciate this, and as Jared and I were pointing out to each other before we began today's transmission, from here at the last outpost of free thought in the Western world, that really, if things keep going in the direction they're going with our supporters, we will be able to take our wives out at some point for a steak dinner. So we appreciate it.
we really appreciate it.
So yeah, and the ladies appreciate that too. Yeah. So thank you. All right.
Yeah.
All right. And go ahead, Jared.
I was gonna say, do you want to start with what we've been reading? And
yeah, or like for this week, or just the text that we're.
Well, for this week. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got.
Well, this week, I'm still mired in Zizek's Tearing with the Negative, right? Is what I've been working with quite heavily, and I also read a banger of an essay by Freud called Dreams in the Occult, where he does not do what you think Freud is going to do with that. So I think both of those are texts that we'll be seeing at some point, I think, here on the GDB. So how about you?
Yeah. Last night I actually, just out of curiosity's sake, I started rereading Roger Scruton's On Beauty.
Okay.
It's one of his shorter, it's one of those little, what is it? Oxford, I think, is the one that makes those like short commentaries.
Yeah. A very short introduction or something like that.
Yeah. I just returned to Scruton quite a bit, so I just picked him up last night again. But then we finished the Odyssey with our students, so we're done with that, and we're off to the Greek plays now. So we're gonna start with Agamemnon.
Nice, very good. Oh, fine, yeah. I've used Agamemnon to just get classes going, because nothing really gets the attention of the student than that kind of sex and violence.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Well, we end, the Odyssey with the slaughter, right? Well, the bloodbath that happens at the end, and then we reintroduce more sex and violence through Agamemnon. So,
yes. So so another thing to say about what we're going to do with these kinds of episodes, these kind of episodes, is I think, right, we've agreed that maybe this is where we'll say some of the things that are a little spicier, a little more, nothing I wouldn't say in public, but also like where we're going to maybe take more risks in terms of what it would mean to be misconstrued by what we're saying, that sort of thing. So that's another, I think, privilege of this, is like we're showing a kind of disclosure here that maybe, we're perfectly honest in the other ones, but just in terms of subject matter, right?
Yep.
Like less worried about YouTube taking this down.
Exactly. So,
all right. So shall we jump into the topic for the day?
Let's do it.
Okay. So today we are discussing a text that what it is it's 3 newspaper editorials or op-eds that a French thinker wrote, a guy named Jean Baudrillard wrote in the lead up to and during and the end of, or after the fact of, the first Gulf War in 1990-1991. So he wrote these 3 op-eds. I think they're originally in Le Monde, it's like the French equivalent to the New York Times, right? Their paper of record. And the first essay is, if I'm getting the title exactly correct, is the Gulf War will not take place. The second essay is the Gulf War is not really taking place. And the final essay is the Gulf War did not take place. Okay.
Hmm.
So Baudrillard is making the claim that, in fact, the event that we call the Gulf War, and he means here first Gulf War, and the fact that we have to qualify which one, I think actually makes his point. um, he's saying that what we call the first Gulf War, for this event, this pseudo event, in his view, that occurred or was supposed to have occurred between 1990 and 1991, right? Sort of in the buildup, and then finally the execution of the ground offensive, I think is in February of 91. He's saying did not take place. Okay. Which is deliciously crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think we have to note about Baudrillard is there's probably quite a bit of hyperbole in here. Okay. There's some predictions he makes that I think turn out to be just factually wrong. Okay. People get after him on that. Okay. However, I think the core point of what he is saying in this essay is absolutely spot on. Okay. All right. And so let me just say that, and I want to kind of give a sense of who he is a little bit, right? So if you were to watch closely the first of the Matrix films, at one point you'll see the protagonist reading this book, okay? And it's Baudrillard's Simulacra and Simulation, okay? And I think that's an interesting tell about the first Matrix film is that it's not really about what we call today the simulation hypothesis. Like, could it be that all of reality to us is merely, a computer simulation, and we have this like metaphysical brains and vat story? That's not the point. If indeed what we're getting signal here is Baudrillard's book, the point is that we live in a simulation in a much more subtle sense,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And we're going to get into that. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and I think in order for us to take what Baudrillard is doing in the Gulf War did not happen, I want to use an example that actually one of my sons, and when I was talking to him about this afternoon, made this point is when Baudrillard says that the Gulf War didn't take place, he's not saying like Alex Jones when he says Sandy Hook didn't take place. Okay. It's like if I understand, right, Jones is saying literally nobody got shot there, right? Or many fewer people got, like, he's claiming people who are saying their kid died, they didn't die there. Okay. So he's making this first order claim to say there is no referent to
Hmm.
the event Sandy Hook. Okay. That's not at all what Jean Baudrillard is doing in these essays. He is not saying there will not be an event that involves the killing of hundred thousands of people. He's not saying there's not currently going on an event that involves the killing of hundreds of thousands of people. And he is definitely not saying after the fact that the killing of those hundreds of thousands of people did not happen.
Hmm. Hmm.
What he's saying, though, is whatever that was, it wasn't I'm going scare quotes now, the Gulf War. Right. Okay. Do you see? I think that's important. All right. And I think what we're going to get to here is he's making the point that we live in a simulation in this sense, is that the events that concern us increasingly almost exclusively, like, so like this sort of these pseudo events, which other thinkers have used that term, are seeping not just from they aren't just things we see in the news anymore, right? They aren't just things that happen far off. They're increasingly seeping into like our relationships to other people in the concrete real. And as much as we have any access to the concrete real, they're seeping into our self-conceptions, into our sense of personal identity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And when he says something like we live in a simulation, he's saying that we live in a world that is completely mediated by representations that are representations of nothing,
Hmm.
right? It's a self-referential spiral of signifiers signifying each other, and there's no ground to it. Okay. And his example of such a signifier that is without a referent and is uttered for purposes other than reference is the Gulf War.
Yeah.
Okay. Is
Yeah.
anything on that? Yeah.
Yeah, and I read in it as well, especially the power of media to be able to create that simulation, right? That what we think we saw as the Gulf War was a carefully mediated image of what actually was going on, because the amount of terror and destruction and blood that really happened, we weren't shown a lot of that, right? We were
Yeah.
shown like very
Yeah. Maybe
specific
unprecedented
airstrikes.
levels of it happened.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I would say he even says like the idea of it being a war is ridiculous because we show up with such heavy, heavy guns compared to the Iraqi people that he's like, what war? What are you talking? There is no, you know, if anything, it's a slaughter or an evacuation of a country, you know?
Yeah. And so, going to an example he uses in the earlier text in simulacra and simulation, he says in that text, and I guess he's written quite a bit about war. The only two texts I've read by him are simulacra and simulation, and then the Gulf War hadn't occurred, right? But in the first book, he actually says that Vietnam was the first war that was mostly fought for not to be won, but for our footage of winning it.
Mm, hmm.
Okay, so he makes the claim that in Vietnam, the point was really our ability to depict ourselves as winning the war more than it was to actually win the war on the ground. And if you think of it, like there's some good, I mean, this isn't just crazy French theory. There's some good historical stuff here. Like we know that, for instance, Johnson is told uh, in, I think it's 64, right? Uh, hey, look, we really cannot, they've asked him to send another like 50,000 troops or bring the total up to 100,000, something like that. And McNamara tells him, look, dude, we could go to 500,000. We still can't win this thing.
Hmm.
Okay. And Johnson, was like, well, bullshit, right? Right. I can't look like I'm losing to the commies in an election year. So he gives them, whatever the number was, 50,000, 60,000 troops, which, by the way, my dad's in that wave.
Hmm.
Thanks, Johnson. Right. Okay. Right. He gives them the more troops they want, not because this is about actually winning a damn thing. It's to give the appearance of winning it. Right. And the more people we have there, the more people we can get footage of them doing battle stuff, displaying American military technological prowess, and thereby giving the impression of winning. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
And think like that whole, if we want to read that history, that whole history of the Vietnam War was, how do we get out of there by still letting it look like we won it?
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
And that's what mattered, because it was about sending an image of American power to the rest of the world, to the American people, right? Sending an image of resoluteness in the face of the commie enemy and all that to the American people, all that. And it wasn't really about the material events that went on the ground. And in fact, the actual aims of what's being done were, I would say, pretty far disconnected from the concrete reality of what's going on, right? And so, like, meanwhile, like, the American people are getting this impression of all the great victories that the noble American fighting man is having in Vietnam. Meanwhile, My Lai is going on, right? Meanwhile, we're mostly dumping bombs into uninhabited jungles, right? Things
Yeah.
like that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But hey, we're getting good pictures of it, and it's giving the right impression, and that's it. Like in a way, you could say what was being called, the Vietnam War, although no one in the administration would have called it the war at that time, but was being called our effort in Vietnam, did not occur. That was a pseudo event. That was an entirely constructed event, right? That was not really happening. And it was really designed to shield us from the concrete reality,
Hmm.
ultimately of defeat there, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because I mean I could not keep Plato's Cave out of my head the entire time I was reading
Oh
this
yeah,
because
it's there. It's
I'm
there.
like, oh my gosh, man, he's showing us the image makers, right? Like, hey, guess what, guys? You're all looking at a simulation on the cave wall right
Yeah.
now, and to your point earlier as well is that it's not denying the actual facts that people killed people, that people were being killed, that there was terror and destruction going on, but it's the narrative aspect or the very selective imaging of what's being given to us
Yeah.
about it,
Yeah.
which is I think especially with Vietnam a big reason why I think a lot of soldiers came home and were like that was not what we were doing. You know what I mean? Like they clearly understood like what you guys were shown was not what's going
That
on.
was not the thing. Yeah. Okay. Right. And also you had members of the press that weren't really on board and stuff like that. So it was
Yeah.
like Vietnam was a rather unsuccessful attempt at a simulation.
Yes.
Okay. The Gulf War, however, different deal. Okay. Okay. It's like a lesson was learned. So do you mind if I go to the
Go
text a little
ahead.
bit here? Okay. So, we're reading from the collection of all three essays that were put together by Indiana University Press. So you all can find that. It's depending on your relationship to copyright law, it's readily available on the internet. Okay, so um, I'm on page 25 of that edition, um, legally purchased, by the way. Okay, so I'm on page 25 of the Indiana University Press edition, where Baudrillard says, "We are all hostages of media intoxication, induced to believe in the war just as we were once led to believe in the revolution in Romania, and confined to the simulacrum of war as though confined to quarters. We are already strategic hostages in situ. Our sight is the screen on which we are virtually bombarded day by day, even while serving as exchange value. In this sense, the grotesque vaudeville played by Saddam Hussein is a diversion, at once a diversion of both war and international terrorism. His soft terrorism will at least have put an end to the hard terrorism of Palestinians and others, thereby showing him to be, in this as in many other respects, the perfect accomplice of the West." Okay, a lot of things he says there don't turn out to be true. It doesn't end it doesn't end hard terrorism, all that, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but you can see what he's saying here is like right now we are hostages, right?
Hmm.
We are held captive to these simulacra that are sent to us via media,
Yes.
and we have political, social, economic stakes in these events, but we have no access to them but through the lens that's mediated to us, right? And in that lens, in Bajrad's view, are mostly constructed events that don't happen,
Hmm.
right? And he uses the example of the revolution in Romania. He's referring to events and recent events at the time of this writing in Romania, where we kind of got this media driven story of like this really noble revolution that went on there,
Hmm.
to kick out Ceausescu, who was a terrible, rotten person. And it turns out it was like one side of the state apparatus going ape on the other side of the state apparatus, and people were just led into it, right?
Hmm.
Okay. And so once again, a pseudo event like that revolution, we are told the revolution did not occur,
Yes.
right? Okay. If we jump up to page 31, Baudrillard says towards the top there, thus real-time information loses itself in a completely unreal space, finally furnishing the images of pure, useless, instantaneous television, where its primordial function erupts, namely that of filling a vacuum, blocking up the screen hole through which escapes the substance of events. Nor is promotion the pursuit of the economy by other means. On the contrary, it is the pure product of uncertainty with regard to the rational aims of production. This is why it has become a relentless function, the emptiness of which fills our screens to the extent that the absence of any economic finality or rationality. This is why it competes victoriously with the war on our screens, both alternating in the same virtual credit of the image. The media promote the war promotes the media, and advertising competes with the war. Promotion is the most thick skinned parasite in our culture. It would undoubtedly survive a nuclear conflict. It is our last judgment, but it is also like a biological function. It devours our substance, but it also allows us to metabolize what we absorb, like a parasitic plant or intestinal flora. It allows us to turn the world and the violence of the world into a consumable substance. So war or promotion? That's a question. It's brilliant. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
So what he's saying here is what like the Gulf War, what that signifier is, it's an advertisement.
Yes.
It's a promotion of something. It's a promotion of an image. Okay. It's not an actual war. Because as you pointed out, nothing we could really recognize as a war happened there. We just basically carpet bombed hundreds of thousands of people who were mostly, my understanding was like prisoners of war from Iran that they stuck in bunkers on the border, and then like killed a lot of civilians too in bombing the cities. and then like we ran over a paper army. Like, and his point is like that's not a war, right? It's basically a staged slaughter in his view. Okay,
Exactly.
help
Yeah.
yourself disagree, but think of it when all the images of like the ticker tape parades and stuff like that. This was different from World War II.
Yes.
Okay, it was different from World War II. Do you see that? And so, if you want to take this seriously as a war, he doesn't think you can take it seriously as a war, right? And so, then why was this actually done? Well, it was done to promote this image of deterrence. It was to advertise. Now the Soviet Union is gone. Guess what? We can go anywhere and do anything we want, anytime, any place, to any country, and wreck you and slaughter you, right? But we had to sell that in a way. You can't actually show the death. And so, what did we do? We staged the Gulf War, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But that whole idea of promotion as a parasite, and that stuck with me big time because oh my gosh, I mean, every time I watch TV, I always think of like Fahrenheit 451 with the girl
Yes.
that's in the room with a bunch of TVs, and she cares more about the relationships that are going on there rather than her actual relationships. And I'm like the invention. It's similar to our recent episode about Prometheus. It's like yeah, the TV is amazing. What we've been able to do, and I love movies. I love watching TV, but it's also become our parasite, right? Like
Yes.
it's become the thing that we can't escape. That's constantly eating at us and wanting us to come back.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. The way I've come to, are you familiar with the TV show Severance?
So I'm familiar with it. I haven't watched it though.
Okay. Oh, my, just drop what you're doing.
Okay.
Don't go to the kids' game tonight. You know, like binge that show. I mean, so in Severance, what you have is like people agree to work at a corporation, but they have to like have a brain implant put, so they will have no memory of what's going on in it while they're at work. Okay. Yeah. So they go to work, and so end up having like separate work lives and out of work lives. Do you see that? Yeah. Okay. And so you think of it. So there has to be this like radical division within this that keeps these things separated. You know what I mean? And so basically to 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 do the work, you have to like give over your sense of personhood, right? Because you're like you're not going to like they come to see their inside self and outside selves as different selves, right? And I think you can see that. Here's the analogy I'm drawing is basically we're being asked to be like kind of to sever ourselves, right?
Hmm.
To live in this pseudo world, right? Okay.
Hmm.
But I think Baudrillard's point, a point I would make is like, but the expanse of the severed world, the super pseudo world that we live in, is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and there's less left outside of the severed world, more and more and more
Yes.
and more. It's all becoming increasingly ensconced in the severed simulation. Okay,
Yes.
and and I love like the parasitical thing is really important. Okay, um, because actually, like from the passage you just had, I then linked it to on page 68. Okay. Do you mind if I go there?
Good. Yeah, I've got it on my computer, so I'm reading it on here
Cool.
while we're chatting.
So he says on 68, fake war, deceptive war, not even the illusion, but the disillusion of war, linked not only to defensive calculation, which translates into the monstrous prophylaxis of this military machine, but also the mental disillusion of the combatants themselves and the global disillusion of everyone else by means of information. Okay, skipping out a little bit, he says, it matters little what it informs us about. Its coverage of events matters less, since it is precisely no more than a cover. Its purpose is to produce consensus by a flat encephalogram. Okay, brain death. The complement of the unconditional simulacrum in the field is to train everyone in the unconditional reception of broadest simulacra. Abolish any intelligence of the event. The result is suffocating atmosphere of deception and stupidity. And if people are vaguely aware of being caught up in this appeasement and this disillusionment by images, they swallow the deception and remain fascinated by the evidence of the montage of this war with which we are inoculated everywhere through the eyes, the senses, and in discourse. Okay. So what's he saying there? He's saying ultimately the point of the simulation is to cause stupidity,
Hmm.
right? it's the severus. He says it wants to cause a flat encephalogram, like so. There's no brain waves now, right? Just get used to viewing. Just get used to viewing. Just get used to viewing. Don't like, and the more it can like do that, the less we'll try to look outside of the simulation, right? And the more it just like the on the ground reality just won't matter,
Yes.
right? All that will matter is what we can for any real concrete event. What will matter is what can we simulate it as. That's what
Yes.
will matter, right? You
Yes.
see that? And it's sort of like it's the point of it. He thinks is just to. It doesn't matter if it's like obvious that this is not what went down, right? The fact that it's obvious that this is not what that went down is part of the point. It's because like it's like to get you used to being stupefied,
Exactly.
like to lie to you so much that you're not even shocked by being lied to,
Yes.
right? Like
Oh my
that's
gosh.
the point of it. Yeah,
Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Yeah. Earlier in 67, end of 66, early
There are
67.
banger pages in this thing. The
Dude, oh my
section.
gosh.
Yeah,
So he says, resist the probability of any image or information, whatever. Be more virtual than events themselves. Do not seek to reestablish the truth. We do not have the means, but do not be duped. And to that end, re-immerse the war, all information in the virtually from whence they came. Turn deterrence back against itself, being meteorologically sensitive to stupidity. And that's
yes,
like basically the advice that he's saying, like the people that are creating these narratives, like be totally okay with not having the actual facts. Just
yes,
say, it's funny. I was watching Shark Tank the other day, and
yeah.
this person had an idea for a dog car seat, and none of the investors liked it. But at one point, Mark Cuban says, "Well, do you have any like statistics on actual dog deaths that are going on, in cars, in car crashes?" And she said, "Well, there's actually no studies on that." He goes, "Make them up." He's like, "Fear is so much better than cute." I was like,
Yeah, yeah,
"You said the quiet part out loud."
yeah. And here's the deal. Like, okay, so think of it. You go up and you could just make up some preposterous statistic that like 98% of dogs, right, die in car crashes, and of course that's not true.
Right,
Like,
right.
like of course, like I mean, of course, our anecdotal experience isn't always an indicator, but like, how many people do you know that have had dogs that died in car wrecks? Like, no one, right? Okay, okay, and so, but hearing that, y- that that's a lie, but you've been lied to so much, you don't care,
Yep, yep,
right?
exactly.
You don't care. And so now this is where I think we should go with all this is like, it's as if we now do see ourselves as characters in a video game or a movie.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And in the movie that I'm in, that I mediate my life through, it's damn dangerous to have my dog not in a car seat. Right. So I'm going to go buy that. Cause like, what's my role in the simulation? It's to go buy the car seat.
Yep,
You see what I mean? So
exactly.
it's that's an inter simulation or simulation act that's going on there,
Yes.
right? And you're being lied to, but it doesn't matter. You're just so used to it. Or like, oh, the game we're playing is a simulation game. That's the game we're usually playing. So I'm just going to play along. Right.
Yep, yep.
Right.
And I think social media and these things have made it
Yeah.
so much worse because
So
now
much.
you're a character in your own play, right? You're so like one of the biggest things that we can see now is you end up putting on a certain costume for social media in order to get follows and clicks and all that stuff, and then the costume becomes the thing. Like that become you've now become the thing to the point where you don't know how to separate yourself from that anymore. Right? I mean, I know a lot of guys that got into social media and stuff and tried to get really big on YouTube. Then all of a sudden, like you've become your character, man, and now like you're kind of a dick.
Yeah. Or you've lost the distinction.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. As I was going to name the book. There's a guy who wrote an interesting book recently where he's saying like the key to sanity in our moment is not to not have a social media image. It's to always like realize that, like to self-consciously realize, well, that's not me. That's just a game I'm playing. Right. Like
Yes.
that cognitive act. This is a cautionary tale for us as the Legion grows.
Right.
Um,
Well, my hope is that
so
this is such
yeah,
a
go ahead.
real podcast that we would never want to put a face
Yeah,
on. Right.
hope
Like
so.
that's
Right.
my hope. So
So during the second Gulf War, I was actually pushing this, I like literally this text to a student. And the student replied, like, look, I just think, George W. Bush is like a really good guy. And he's like this, like good, like Christian gentleman. So I just have to trust him that this war we're about to do is another good one, right? And I said to the student, like, look, I don't think George W. Bush exists. Meaning, what you're calling George W. Bush is a character somebody plays on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I mean? There is no such person. That is a simulacra. That represents nobody. And the student's like, well, no, I've met people who have met him, right? And they said he's really nice. I said, well, but he's playing the character. And I said, like, I'm not doubting that there's a person whose birth certificate says George W. Bush and he plays George W. Bush on TV. What I'm saying, though, is you and I have no access to the reality of that. We
Exactly.
only have access to the simulation. Okay. And so here we are, like, in supporting or not, whatever that even means, I support it. Okay. The second Gulf War, that's entirely intra-simulatory action,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
We're just playing a role in a video game there, right? Like, our role is a certain kind of person who in this game is related to that kind of person in a certain way, and we're playing the part, right?
Exactly.
And I'm not saying that war didn't have horrid consequences, and I'm not saying not fighting it might not have had horrid consequences. The point is whatever the events were, they weren't what was called the Second Gulf War. Why? Because George W. Bush was not what we call George W. Bush. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
It was simulatory, right? It was
Yeah. When I
all
found out,
mediated through things. Yeah,
exactly. When I found out Obama's a chain smoker and
yeah.
didn't see a single image of that, right? Like the cleaned up character that he is. Granted, he's one of the most well-spoken guys on a stage, maybe ever. But it's a character, right? It's putting on a play. So
Put on play. Exactly. Right. Now, but to think it though, now just like where we've gone, like, politically in the States here, when you're deciding who to invite to your house for drinks on a Friday night, you actually have to you have to think about the roles they play in the simulation.
yes.
Do you see what, you know what I mean? Like this whole pseudo reality of geopolitics, politics, pop culture, all this stuff, none of which is real. Okay. Now mediates intimate personal relations for us, right? Whether it be like our friends, our family, all that stuff. Do you see what I mean?
Yep.
And so
Sorry, my camera.
it's, no, so it's like we're losing any touch, right,
Yes.
with any world outside the simulation. Right. Right.
To the point where
You-
it's,
you-
as to your point, it's seeping into our very relationships.
It's seeping in our very relationships.
Like, I mean, I heard a lot of stories of the first time Trump ran that there were actual marriages that were ending over whether or not you were going to vote for Trump.
Yeah.
Like,
Vote for a man who doesn't exist.
a man who doesn't exist. Exactly.
It's like I'm going to break my marriage up because of your disposition towards Darth Vader.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
And now look, your disposition to Darth Vader doesn't have the consequences that our overall dispositions towards Trump might have. Okay. However, Darth Vader and Trump, I would say, are ontologically on par.
Yes.
You should,
Yeah.
they are both simulacra. They are representations of nothing.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
They are images put up for the sake of our participation in a system of images, right? Not because they actually represent anything.
Yep.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to go a little bit further up as well.
Yeah.
Again.
Good.
So it is 62.
Cool.
Right at the end of 61, it says, it has been called a surgical war, and it is true that there is something in common between this in vitro destruction and in vitro fertilization. The latter also produces a living being, but it is not sufficient to produce a child. Except in the new genetic order, a child issues from sexual copulation. Except in the New World Order, war is born of an antagonistic, destructive, but dual relation between two adversaries. This war is an asexual surgical war, a matter of war processing in which the enemy only appears as a computerized target. Just the sexual partners only appear as code names on the screen of Minitel Rose. If we can speak of sex in the latter case, then perhaps the Gulf War can pass for a war.
Note to the readers that Minitel Rose was an early version of the internet in France that was mostly dominated by porn.
Right.
Right. Okay. At one point in here, he refers to this simulation as a celibate machine, which is a term he's taken from Deleuze and Guattari, right? And it reminds me of something I read in one of Zizek's recent books where he loves self quotation, right? But he quotes himself as talking about this is well, here we are, we're behind the paywall. Talking about um like there was he was making a point about how like internet culture is ruining sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about there was some male sex toy craze in England, okay, where it was a receptive device, okay, and it would apparently go for very long times. And then Zizek said, like, so really what the ideal of sexuality is becoming for us is like you would just bring your male sex toy and your date would bring her female sex toy, and you would put those together and they would like just vibrate each other, and then you and your date could watch porn, right?
Oh,
You
jeez.
see, I mean, it's because it's like completely sterile, completely celibate sexuality, and like what Butcher is saying, even though okay, but I mean, there's consequences, but like Butcher's saying, like this is the ideal war now wouldn't even kill anyone, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It would just be an entirely celibate war where we could like all have the simulation of it. Do you see
Yeah.
that now? And he's not saying like he wishes there was more killing or something like that, right? What he's saying though is it's actually bad because it distracts us from the real realities of it. Do you see what I mean? Right? And I think Zizek says something too. It just distracts us from the real realities of sexuality, right?
Yes.
You see
Exactly.
that? And
Exactly.
like actually in the other books, simulacra and simulation, Baudrillard talks about. He says there's residues outside the simulation. Okay, and he says the first is birth. Birth is residual if it is not symbolically revisited through initiation. Death is residual if it is not resolved in mourning, in the collective celebration of mourning. Value is residual if it is not reabsorbed and volatilized in the cycle of exchanges. Quality is residual once it becomes the production of pardon me. Sexuality is residual once it becomes a production of sexual relations. The social itself is residual once it becomes a production of social relations, et cetera, et cetera. And I think what he's saying there is like, there's a way like sex and death and mourning and stuff can escape the simulation, right? But as soon as they become public displays, now they're into it. Do,
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
you see that? Okay, so like, um, the death of the Iraqis, the hundreds of thousands of them, and the dozens, right, literally maybe dozens on the other side, was real. Okay, and that was a residual. It was beyond. It was a leftover from the simulation, but it got sucked into these romanticized representations of it, right? These sort of steam through the night goggles explosions and
Yes.
things like
Yes.
that, which almost have this like video game feel to it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like the
Mm-hmm.
death got absorbed into it, and like what is something like pornography, right? It's like taking sexuality out of the residual of in the
Mm-hmm.
real and bringing it into the simulation, right? And Zizek's point is, so now the ideal would just be like one machine simulating sex with another machine while we watch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And like what
Yep.
would ideal warfare be? It'd be like one machine simulating death with another one while we watch. It'd be a video game. Do you see what I mean?
Absolutely.
Totally, right? And and like for Blood, this is the point,
Yeah.
right? This is the point to absorb us into that,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah. It reminds me of kind of, but it's a. Have you ever seen the movie called Gamers?
No, I haven't.
So basically, people decide that they can like sell themselves into becoming a actual simulation of a game. So people are literally playing video games with real people, and the real people have given over their agency to literally do whatever the gamer wants them to do, right? And so in a way, it's like we forced people into the simulation, right? And in a way, the narrative is playing out, even though somebody's got the video game control on the other side.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like for this reason, I'm going to say, right? Like I would even say, like the JFK assassination did not happen, right? I mean, that was I'm not that man was killed. There was a man
Mhm,
killed.
mhm.
The man who played JFK on TV was killed, right? Okay. Um, he was. I don't think we know the character who played the character that killed him, right?
Yeah,
Okay, but a character was framed for it, or at least accused of it, right? Another character did shoot him, right? Shoot them, the accused, all that. Okay. Um, but that was an event that was put on for the sake of the footage of the event. I believe that, right? Okay, the effect of it. Okay, and I'm going to go this. We're going to crazy here. I'm going to say a similar thing. Like the assassination of Charlie Kirk did not occur. Right. I'm not saying a man was not killed horribly that day. All right. Okay. But I would say Charlie Kirk for you and me did not exist. That was a character in a simulation, right? And like
Mhm,
whoever shot Charlie Kirk was doing this while thinking of himself, right, as a
mhm,
player in the game,
mhm, mhm.
right, to make a display for the simulation, right? You see my point? And I'm not saying that's not a real concrete person, right? And I'm not saying that Charlie Kirk is not a real concrete person, but he was shot in persona of his role in the simulation, and the
Yes,
person who shot him did so in persona of their role in the simulation, all done for our consumption, one way or another, right? But that's it. It was done for our mediated consumption,
exactly.
right? To influence us in some way or the other, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Absolutely. You know, and this is not to take away from the horror to that
Right.
man's family and
Tragedy,
his children, all that.
absolutely,
That's not the
for
point,
sure.
right? Okay. And it's not even to indulge like a conspiracy about it, whatever you want to do with that. Okay, right? Um, it's to say the event was taken and used this way
Yes,
as to contribute to a simulation. You see that, and we do not have any access to the real of it at all.
yes. It's similar to something we've talked about before of, there's this, like, weird way of seeing your actions as influencing the world engine, right? That, like, you're operating on this weird grand scale of some huge movie or video game, and people place themselves into these characters thinking that they're moving the world engine in some capacity. But real life is much more local, right? Like the world engine doesn't give a crap about you. Like
This
whatever's
has
moving.
nothing to do with you, really. Right?
So it's like Mother Nature does not care, right? Like that's
Doesn't
the
care.
reality of it. And so,
Yeah.
but they put themselves in that place mentally to the point where they're willing to kill somebody, right? Like
Yeah.
that. It's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. And so now, you know, where I mean, I don't care what side of the political spectrum you're on. You're asking me to think of my life in terms of pseudo events that actually have very little to do with it.
Hmm.
Do,
Hmm.
do you see? I'm not saying there's no consequence to politics or anything like that, right? But um, you're asking me to mediate myself to myself, right, through these brand images,
Yes. Yes.
right? Like, and I mean, we know this about like corporations is like they want brand identity out of kids by the time they're like 2 years old. Like they
It's
want the
crazy.
kids to identify their personalities with brands by the time they're toddlers. Okay. Well, do you think only like Nike knows that trick? You know what I mean? But like, what does Nike want? They want you by the time you're like speaking to think of yourself as a Nike person. So you are a character in the simulation. That's how you think of yourself, right? Well, that's what we're being asked to think of, like politically, religiously, all these ways, right? Is to think of ourselves in terms of these brand images, so that we now are like even become caricatures in a game among things that don't really exist.
Exactly. And it
Right.
seems to me like even to Baudrillard's point is that like the brand being sold was Americanism, right? That the American machine is unstoppable. And it
It was an ad campaign, man.
exactly. And it also brings up the uh what, I don't know if they call it the invasion of the congressional house or whatever that
Yeah.
was, that
Oh,
happened.
January 6th.
Yes, January
That
6th.
didn't happen.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that one's really weird, right? But that one was definitely used for footage. Like
Yeah.
that was so
Yeah.
easily identifiable for
And
footage.
and you don't have to say like, uh, deep state actors, agent provocateur, put it on, whatever. Okay, maybe, whatever. I don't care, right? The point is the what we call that event, right, didn't happen because it was immediately co-opted into the war of one video game brand against another.
Exactly,
You see what I mean?
exactly.
Like, so it doesn't matter, right? I would say whether it was agent provocateurs or like legitimate, like domestic terrorists. There's a brand, right? Okay, what have you. Um, what matters is like you and me sitting here, we only have access to it through the brands that we're supposed to identify ourselves through.
Exactly.
Right.
And he doesn't really get into this, but I was interested to hear your thoughts on this of how much of this is baked into capitalism. That like,
But yeah.
because I mean, I'm sure any economic system is going to have some sense of simulation, right? Like that's, you're a poor farmer and you're happy, right? Like,
Mhm.
don't you may not be able to feed your kids, but you're happy. But especially late stage capitalism, we're kind of like really running on like, hey, the fumes are coming, and so the simulation needs to get stronger and stronger because
Yeah.
that's the only way people are going to buy this crap.
So, and Baudrillard and Debord come apart at certain points, but I think there's a common thing here. And Guy Debord, who famously wrote a book which we will be doing, right,
Nice.
called The Society of Spectacle, and the
Oh yeah.
sequel to it, which people don't read, which I think is actually better. But anyway,
Okay.
yeah, they're stay tuned, Legion, right? Um, so Debord says, in late capitalism, he's writing this in the 60s, 70s, maybe. In late capitalism, the spectacle is both the mode of production and the product.
Mm, mm,
Okay.
yeah.
Like what we are primarily exchanging now are spectacular images, right? It's brilliant. Yeah. Right. Because like what do I want? So this thing happens is like before World War II, we could like say, hey man, you're hungry, you gotta buy my beans.
Hmm.
Because everyone's poor.
Yeah.
Almost everyone's poor. Okay. But then after World War II, suddenly like you have broader prosperity. So what do we have to do now? Well, you don't like your basics are met. How do we get you to buy more than the basics? Right. Well, what do? We tell you you want to be like a Nike guy, don't you?
Hmm. Hmm.
You see what I mean? And so now it's really not about the shoes. It's about the identity,
Yep.
right? You know
Exactly.
what I mean? It's not really about McDonald's. It's not about the food. It's about being seen as the kind of guy who takes his kids to McDonald's, right? Do you know what I mean? And so there's this whole like I think a lot of people have commented on this, and I think they're right. The TV show Mad Men is brilliant on this, right? Like what they're doing is they're trying to craft identity to sell.
Yes.
They are they are
Absolutely.
they are coming up with simulacra that they can sell to people. And so now, and how are they going to do? How are they going to sell to someone? They're going to propagate a simulation, or they're going to like they're going to buy ad space on television shows like simulacra, so that they can get people to buy simulacra.
Yep.
Right. So it's both the means of production and the thing produced.
Yes. Yeah, I love that you brought up that show too, because you and I have talked a lot about, the people that, oh, in the back in the good old days type of stuff, right? It's like, well, the simulacra that you've been given was, the dad comes home to a cooking wife and the kids are just playing at his feet, right? But the
Yeah.
reality of it was there was racism, sexism, a lot of abuse, a lot of like, especially alcohol abuse, drug abuse, like all that stuff was in most homes during that
Dad was
time.
dad was drinking himself to sleep every night because of his unresolved PTSD that he got from like cutting heads off in Okinawa, right? I mean, like stuff like
Exactly.
that, right? Yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
like we missed that part, right? And that was the real, yeah, exactly,
So, but the simulacra is this beautiful,
yeah.
go watch I Dream of
And
Jeannie.
so
That's,
yeah, man,
that's
you could
what
like
really was going
just
on.
using MAGA as an example. We could do it the other side, that like totally, but it's just this is easy because you say the "Make America Great Again." Well, the again seems to be like the 1950s, right?
Hmm.
But like that vision never happened.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? Like the 1950s did not occur,
Exactly.
right? You see what I mean? Right.
Yes.
But by the same token, I'll say to the left, like following someone on the left, the revolution will not be televised.
Absolutely.
You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? Like whatever you see on TV from the left, that's a simulation,
Exactly.
right? Yeah, yeah, right. But so it's interesting on 64. I was not expecting this from Baudrillard. On 64, he says, here I am. Okay, he says, there's a paragraph in the middle. Um, at the end, he says, "We are all accomplices in this phantasmagoria. It must be said. We are in any publicity campaign. In the past, the unemployed constituted the reserve army of capital. Today, in our enslavement to information, we constitute the reserve army of all planetary mystifications, end quote. He's saying this is on you and me. You know what I mean? Like we, you know what I mean? Like it's interesting. He's not saying, he's not a determinist. Like we're not the passive playthings of this. Like we are participating in it. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to see yourself in terms of Nike, right? You don't have to see yourself in terms of MAGA. You don't have to see yourself like you don't have to like what's I've always said the two most dangerous phrases I've heard in my life are "Make America Great Again" from Trump, and then Obama's "We Are the Hope We've Been Waiting For."
Yes.
That's a dangerous claim, man.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous claim. But
Yeah.
right. But those two, like you don't have to like identify yourself MAGA. You don't have to identify yourself with "We're the hope we've been waiting for." Right. You see what I mean? You don't have to do it. Like you can cling to the residue, right?
Yes.
And in
Yes.
fact, it's your fault. He's saying, I think if you're playing into the global mystification,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah. Well,
And
it's one of the
and
things
to
too,
me,
like, go ahead.
no, and to me, it seems to me like the the solution comes from one of the abiding friends of the pod, Jean-Paul Sartre,
Nice. Yeah.
and saying existence precedes essence, right? Like, what are all these simulacra? They are proposals of essence,
Yes.
right? They're
Yes.
proposals of things to be, right? And what does Sartre say? That's all bullshit, right? You begin where you are in the concrete real, taking responsibility for that,
Exactly.
right? And any essence you have comes out of that action, out of real action.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. And what I was going to say too is like, I mean, for example, I've got a Celtics hat right here, right? I like the Celtics. I like watching the Celtics. I've been a Celtics fan for most of my life, but I am okay with knowing that that's not my essence. Like that's just something I enjoy. And I know that they're
Yeah.
putting on a show for me. Like I
Yeah.
know that they're entertaining me. Right. And so like when I go to an NBA game, I have a lot of fun. It's great, but I also know this is all a play. We're all here. I mean, who knows? Maybe even likely the scores might be more like a WWE thing going on. I don't know, right? Like,
No, not
but
Nibby. No.
but I know, right? I
Yeah.
know these are cave paintings or that these are cave images that are being portrayed for me. But that's okay. Like it's okay to enjoy certain things, right? But we want to do with this podcast is like think for yourself. Like start
Yeah.
realizing
So
what you're being sold.
are you saying Larry Bird never existed?
Very possible. Very
Very
possible.
much. I think that's a simulation, right? No,
The real Larry Bird hurt his back at his mom's house. That's what really
was
went
there
on.
a guy from Indiana named Larry Bird who played Larry Bird on TV? Yes, there was. We're not
Hey.
saying right. Okay, right. No, I think another thing to come back to on the show a lot is okay to say that somehow okay, so like a moron is someone who just like goes ahead and like I'm a Celtics guy, that's who I am, right? Okay, and just participates in the simulation without question. Only an idiot says I can just operate utterly freely of it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay, because you're guess what? You can't. Like
You
you
can't.
are.
No.
Like good luck having a job without one of these devices these days. Okay, and here we are doing the online thing, right? Okay, but so what's the only option? It's the imbecile, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the person who says, "Hey, guess what? I'm stuck in the simulation, but it's complete bullshit." You know what I mean? But yet I have to work with what's in front of me. Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
right.
I've got
And
another
then
line I wanted to
the
go ahead.
question's always like, well, what do we do then? Well, you're probably asking me, what do we do as actors in the simulation? You know what I mean? Like what I would do is like go step into the real residual of sex and death and friendship and all that stuff, right? That's what I would say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I got
And
one more
birth.
line
Yeah.
I wanted to throw out. It's on 75. It says, we have neither need or nor the taste for real drama or real war. What we require is the aphrodisiac spice of the multiplication of fakes and the hallucination of violence. For we have a
Yes.
hallucinogenic pleasure in all things, which is, as in the case of drugs, is also the pleasure in our indifference and our irresponsibility, and thus in our true liberty. Here is the supreme form of democracy. But then at the end, it says, but ultimately, what have you got against drugs? I just like, brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, right?
It's so good.
It's so good. Yeah. It's almost like you're saying, "Look, you're going to drug yourself,
Exactly.
right? You're going to huff some fumes, right? You're gonna buy some empty representation, but it's a question of, do you go into that knowingly so that you can also then find your way out of them too,
Yep.
right?
So just going to an NBA
Yeah,
game,
there you go.
right?
Yeah,
Like, I know I'm going in there to get drugged by all of the pretty lights and the t-shirt
yeah,
cannons and the
yeah.
all that stuff, right? I
Pretty
know.
cool getting a shirt.
Exactly. But it reminds me once again, though, of Fahrenheit 451 with the wife that is stuck in that room with three different screens, and all she can think about is a fourth, because she wants the drama that's portrayed to her, not the drama in her real life, which is her marriage falling apart. Right? Like we don't want that. And just like we don't want real war. Like a lot of these people who cosplay being, crusaders or some kind of soldier thing. It's like, you ever been in a real world, my man? Like you've seen it on TV, you've seen the simulation of it, right? But real war that you think exists does not exist,
Right.
right? Like the
Exactly.
clean war that you've been shown that you're going to be the hero. Like, dude, you're going to get shot first thing. Like,
Or not, because it's just dumb luck.
right? Exactly.
Something I've noticed on the YouTube is, like you'll have like a clip from Band the Brothers come up,
Hmm.
and then like people will talk in the comments, like, I remember this is the one where, this guy has this happen to him or something like this. And I kind of want to say, but that this isn't what really happened. You know what I mean? Like if you were there, it wouldn't have looked at all like this. Even if it's in the same location, you know what I mean? Like you realize that these men on the screen are not the actual men who did this.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I think like things like Band of Brothers have been like these. They're so what we mediate our relationship to, like say those historical events to,
Hmm.
that's just lost on people. That you're not actually seeing the real thing
Exactly.
when you watch the YouTube, because even that is a sanitized, glorified thing. You know what I mean? And I'm not taking away from those men or anything like that, all that, right? But like anytime I see like movie clips like that on YouTube, and you read the comments, it's like you get this sense that people think like these are the real men,
Yeah.
right? You're seeing it. You're not seeing it. This
Yes.
is made up. I
Yes.
would even say those events didn't happen, right?
Yeah.
You're watching on
Yeah.
that screen.
And
Those
we've
events,
talked about this.
those events did not happen. Yeah,
Yes. We've talked about this before as well, because in some of the circles we run in, the idea of the Crusades is this like great whatever. And so those soldiers or those knights get held up as some kind of like image of chivalry or whatever. It's like, if they came in your town, they're probably raping, robbing, and killing
yeah.
and moving on. Like that
You
is
would not
not
invite those guys for dinner.
exactly,
You
like
would
they
not.
were hired murderers. So like I don't know. So the simulacra though is this like grand knight that rides on his horse and has the veil of his beloved back home. Like, sorry, that's not the
Sorry,
way it works.
cut a lot of heads off. Not cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Right. Um. Yeah. So, like, uh, pretty much, if you give me an event right now, I'll say, yeah, it didn't happen. Right. Right. And not
Exactly.
because I'm not saying, right, there wasn't real blood splattered on real walls. Right. I'm not saying that. Right. I'm saying because what we the sense that we're giving to that reference probably has precious little to do with it.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, cool,
All right,
man.
man.
Yeah, this was a fun one.
That's a good one, man. That's a good one.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I
Um,
hope all of our supporters enjoyed it, and would love to hear from you guys what you think. And we're going to do this more regular for you
yeah.
guys, and we really appreciate all the support. So
What's the email address for the show again?
it's GDB or well, GD Books Podcast at gmail.com.
Yeah.
Just shoot us an email
So
anytime.
hit us there, man.
Yeah.
We'd be happy to interact with you.
Yep. And Patreon also has a chat feature too, so you can shoot us
Yeah.
a message
Cool.
on there too. So
Cool.
yeah.
Excellent.
Well, cool, man. This was fun.
Yep. Thank you, Jared. I appreciate this. I appreciate your friendship. I'm having a good time
Absolutely.
with this.
Did this episode exist?
Yeah.
That's the big.
Is there such a person as Jim Madden?
And that's what I'm saying.
And I'm willing to say now there's a perfect good sense in which Jim Madden does not exist,
Exactly.
right? Because now the image is out there, the voice is out there. It's in the techno hyper object doing its thing, right? I'm perfectly willing to say that there's no such thing as Jim Madden.
Yep.
Though I'm not Jim Madden, but I do play him on TV, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Cool, man. All
Yep.
right. Good chat.
See you, man.